Have you ever set out to achieve something and you've planned something but it hasn't gone ahead? No matter the fact that you have trained hard, you have worked towards it, you've set yourself those goals and you've been determined throughout, despite that, it doesn't go ahead. Whether or not it's because of the circumstances, or you've had an accident, or something tragic has happened, which means you have had to rewrite or rethink your entire plan and even thought about giving up on your dream. Now, I want to talk to you today about somebody who went through all of that, but she knew that just because on earth people around you might say, it's impossible, give it up, it's not going to happen because of X, Y, and Z. No matter that, this person ignored that, and she knew that with God, his plans are incredible, and that with God, anything is possible. Now, the person I'm going to talk to you about today, you may or may not have heard about her. She is a Christian surfer. She's been an inspiration throughout my life. Number one, she's a surfer and I love surfing. I'm definitely nowhere near anywhere as amazing as she is, but she's a surfer and she's also a Christian. So she's been a massive inspiration and I wanted to share her testimony with you today. So I was recently I'm reminded actually by my pastor in church that God can use anybody at all who is number one, available, and number two, faithful. And he, if they're faithful and if they're available, he will equip them. And I thought that was so relevant to this lady who I'm going to talk to you about, whose name is Bethany Hamilton. Now, Bethany Hamilton is a Hawaiian Christian surfer, and like I said, you may or may not have heard about her. Now, her story starts back right when she is young. So she grew up in, like I said, the island of Hawaii, and she lived with her parents and her two older brothers, and they went to church. They're a Christian family. And they also surfed. It was just in her blood. Her parents surfed, her brother surfed, people around her surfed. It's just something that I suppose you would do if you lived in Hawaii. And as soon as she got on that board, she was hooked and she knew she wanted to make it big. She wanted to be a professional surfer. So she trained and trained and trained. She pushed the limits to make sure that she was the one who was competing, who got the sponsorship. She wanted her name to be known and she kept pushing and pushing herself so that she could be the best in her competition, which evidently happened. And during this time that Bethany was growing up and wanting to be a professional surfer, this is way before she was 10 years old, she was competing with another group of girls who during the time in Hawaii were also wanting to make it big and become a professional surfer. She was the one that if people saw her name competing in their heat, they had to paddle hard. She was in it to win it. And she was wiping out girl after girl and she was getting big. And by 9 years old, Rip Curl sponsored her. She got her professional sponsorship at only 9 years old. People knew there was something special about her and they knew she was going to be this big surfer. Like I said, everything in her plan currently was going smoothly, and a professional surfership, she'd already got the sponsorship. She was going to make it big. She wanted to be the big one on the world tour, and that was literally feeling like it was in the grasp of her hand. But when Bethany Hamilton was surfing with her best friend at the time, Alana, and Alana's family, at 13 years old, a 14-foot tiger shark, pretty big, attacked Bethany and she lost her left arm. Now, surfing is a really grueling sport and you need your upper body strength in order to get those best sets, to be the first one out. When you're in a competition, you need to be straight on your board, paddling out before any other competitor, because if you're the first one at the back, out where the sets are, you've got the best chance in getting the best waves and the best sets. And in order to dive down underneath those waves, a lot of surfers do the duck dive, which is basically, if you're on a surfboard, you push the nose down and you go under the wave instead of going over it and losing energy. So there's already a lot of factors for Bethany to think about, and the people around her were thinking, she's never going to be a surfer, she's never going to be a professional surfer, her dream has got to have gone now. And everybody around her was being negative and thinking she couldn't do it. Not because they were trying to be unkind, they were wanting to be supportive, but they just didn't see the bigger picture. And 6 days after Bethany Hamilton's attack, she found peace from God, and she knew that she was going to get back on her surfboard and be surfing in the sea once more. Crazy. 6 days after the attack, people around her were thinking, maybe you should try this sport, maybe you should do this. No, she knew she was going to surf. And a few weeks after her attack, she was back out there surfing. Now, that was no easy ride. She had to face even more obstacles. People around her had 2 arms and were able to get those waves. Bethany Hamilton had to retrain with 1 arm. She had to try and figure out the ways of getting underneath the wave, of being able to push herself up. That was no easy way, and I'm pretty certain there must have been times when she just thought, I can't do this. But she kept relying on the Lord, and she knew that she could get her strength through her Saviour, Jesus Christ. And that is one thing that she kept on doing. And in an interview, when somebody asked her, what's your thought about sharks? Aren't you scared of sharks? She just said, yeah. But then they said, but how do you get around that? How do you deal with that? And she said, I just pray. So pray was her weapon. She prayed her fear away. There must have been that fear there, but she knew, because of that peace given to her in the hospital, she was going to be a surfer. And despite the obstacles, despite people around her saying she was never going to do it, she did it. And she has been professionally surfing now since 9 years old. She's now 30 years old, and she is competing. She's competed in a variety of competitions. She has surfed, quite recently actually, Jaws, which is the biggest set of waves, and she paddled out and caught a 40 foot wave. That is crazy. And it's because she knew that she wasn't relying on her own strength. She was looking to the Lord. Now, I just want to share with you this verse that I think is just so relevant, not just to Bethany's testimony, but to you at home. If you're thinking, oh, there's this thing I want to do, but I can't do it. It looks so far out of my reach. Everyone around me is telling me it's impossible. I can't do it. Listen to this verse. Proverbs 19 verse 21, and it reads this: many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And that basically is saying, humanly, we are going to make plans, and even though we have mapped out our plans and we think they're the best ones, if you rely on God, God's plans are the ones that are beyond your wildest dreams. And if it's His plan and you are available and you are faithful, He will make that plan happen, and it will be for His purpose. Just like Bethany Hamilton, she was faithful. She stayed faithful despite all that had happened and the attack, and she made herself available, and she has shared her faith boldly and courageously worldwide. And it's because of the attack, despite the fact that was so negative and traumatic, God turned Bethany's attack into something good. And like I said, she has gone worldwide sharing her faith, being an inspiration to others, and helping others understand that with God, nothing is impossible.
From what seems like such a horrible thing, God has just brought glory to himself through me, and I've been able to just be a good light to people and share his love. I wake up every day and honor God in everything that I do, and I may fall short sometimes, but all I want to do is love him. My name is Bethany Hamilton.